provided a welcome service by making sure that the internet works across countries. Excuse me, that's not in the mandate of, any union. Okay, unless we're talking about the Soviet Union. And we're not, so what up? Well, many of the ITC's guidelines were first instituted in 1988, and most have not changed since then. The World Conference on International Communications, WCIT, is the first such meeting since those guidelines were ever crafted, and businesses are taking it seriously. U.S. delegates to this also include representatives from AT&T, Cisco, Facebook, GoDaddy, and dozens more. To dispel concerns, the ITU played damage control earlier in October by saying that there are no proposals submitted to create new international regulatory agencies or mechanisms, and hence no proposals to put ITU in control of the Internet, says Malcolm Johnson, the ITU's Telecommunications Standardization Bureau Director. There's a title in a written statement. None of these people will actually go before a camera, by the way. Despite those reassurances, key experts remain concerned. Yeah, you think? The American Registry for Internet Numbers, ARIN, is one of just 5 groups that assign numbers to the Internet names, a key part of making the web tick. Kathy Handley, Executive Director of Government Affairs over at ARIN and the conference attendee, said that the meeting is meant to exert some sort of controls. Some of the proposals that could clearly have consequences address the high cost of mobile roaming, the taxation of calls, and the issues associated with routing of calls, cybersecurity, and combating spam. Handley told Fox News a major concern is with the attempt to make the international telecommunications regulations prescriptive and force regulation. Indeed, the same standard in which Johnson urges calm, she mentions possible vote for more regulation. Josh Kang, who's an attorney with the legal advice site avo.com, said that the ITU will make stronger proposals at a 2015 conference in Dubai. But for now, the goal is to restructure so the telecommunication companies in each country can have more control over what is on the Internet. Well, my question right off the bat to that is, what gives them the right to dictate anything? Their companies. That kind of loses me here. It's not even government, it's companies. Well, the companies already own 90% of the Internet because they're just making money all over the place, aren't they? So now they're going to dictate what we, the users, can put out? Don't think so, Tim. Yeah. The open multi-stakeholder approach that has led to the massive growth of the Internet over the last 15 years would be replaced with a system of top-down international regulations, he told Fox News. Now, Michael Embrick, a spokesperson for the Internet advocacy group Test PAC, defines that goal as a way to level the playing field on the Internet and give developing countries a fair shot. I guess countries like Mexico and the Netherlands. Ba-dum-cha. Yeah, I don't have a drum sound for that. I should get that. Smaller countries want, of course, more regulations to help them compete with the U.S. Well, you know what? Here's news for you. The U.S. isn't a top competitor. The U.S. is in the toilet at $514 trillion, or didn't you catch my last 2 shows? Yeah, okay. Enrich said that one proposal to be funded by $53 billion in U.S. dollars is to connect North and South America using a massive telecom pipeline. Another rule would cover cell phone batteries. Okay, wow. So Internet Regulatory Group is trying to institute a rule to connect North and South America using massive telecom pipelines at whose expense, by the way? And what? Okay, man, I'm lost. I am literally lost. Quote, they would like to implement a law that would require all makers of rechargeable batteries to make them 30% smaller and more efficient. They claim to have a study that says that they can do this through proper regulations and requirements, Embrick said. Internet regulations requiring makers of rechargeable batteries to make them 30% smaller and more efficient? Here's a newsflash, gang. That isn't something to be done in internet regulation. That's something to be done with the battery company's research and development divisions. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Handley told Fox News that it is likely that some of the proposals at WCIT will be enacted over the next 5 years. What were formerly considered rough guidelines will become more precise governances, she said, although she did not outline how those would be enforced. While the worst-case scenario isn't likely, she says, there is a decent chance that some of these regulations will go into effect. Even if the ITU adds new rules, it won't be able to enforce internet governance on a global stage. Iran now has a closed internet, and the only recourse the ITU has to impose sanctions is to impose sanctions. India has also recently imposed harsh censorship to their internet users that go against the recommendation of practices of the WCIT. The WCIT has shown no evidence that they will try to stop that. And Vivek Mohan, a fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School and a former Microsoft attorney, says that the talks should be taken seriously, even if there might not be any short-term impact. This is a fight for the life of the ITU, in a sense. He says if they don't assert authority and jurisdiction now, they will become irrelevant. Well, I would submit on that note that they already are irrelevant if part of their internet regulations affects rechargeable battery companies. And you can quote me. So there we go. So let's step back a few now. We're looking at internet regulation. No idea what their package is. Guess we won't for another 30 days. And even then, who knows what we'll get back. I do know that, I take some sort of solace in the fact that representatives from Facebook and GoDaddy will be there, even holding that above AT&T and Comcast, etc., because these guys are in it for the money, and ignoring the stock crash of Facebook that was just poorly executed. They still have a vested interest in allowing everything, at least within their particular framework, over at Facebook to still be able to happen. So, I mean, we can take some solace in the fact that, we're still going to be able to share our photos of, Halloween last night. We're still going to be able to message each other. But to the extent of whether or not people in other countries will get said messages, I guess, and a look at those pictures from Halloween last night is completely up in the air. Who knows? The other big thing about this, too, is I'd like to know how they're planning on enforcing any of these kind of restrictions or rules. It's one thing to fine some company, $500 billion because they didn't fix their rechargeable batteries, but it's another thing to fine some user in Idaho, $500,000 or whatever the price of the day is going to be for putting out whatever he's putting out on his website or his blog or whatever the user is doing online. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not a proponent for all of these terrorists communicating with each other on these different things, and bad people making bombs, and kids researching how to make bombs, and all that bullshit that's been talked about ad nauseum for the last 15 years. The real point here, it comes always back to what? It comes always back to personal accountability, doesn't it? Isn't that funny? Our personal accountability to ourselves, our personal accountability to our children developing their personal accountability to the world and themselves. And there you go. Could we see an internet passport? I mentioned that earlier in the show. Absolutely, we could see an internet passport. Can't you see it? If you don't have a passport in the United States, you're not going out of the country anywhere. Not since 9/11, baby. No way. You might be a terrorist. So you got to have that passport. Can't you see them implementing that on the web? You actually have your verified ID that is scannable or something on your computer, and your computer, Microsoft could climb on the boat too and not even let you log into your computer unless you swipe your passport on your keyboard or what have you. Then they know it's you. Then they'll let you use your computer. Then they'll let you go online, because no matter what you do online, you'd be accountable then, because they can trace it back to your passport, couldn't they? Oh, but then the hackers will find a way to hack that, and they'll be stealing people's passports then, won't they? Well, getting back to how much information do I put online, have you ever heard of lying? You know, if you're going to a site that you're unsure about and you want to register a thing, go make yourself some, anonymous Gmail email account, Gwen139@gmail.com. Register with that. Make your password. Write it down so you don't forget it. When they ask you for your name's Gwen Stefani. How the hell are they going to know, right? You can't tell me it's not done every day. There's 50 million Facebook profiles out there that are not the real people. And I'm not just talking about celebrities either. I'm talking about just average everyday Joes. You've got companies on Facebook that are spamming their sales for shoes all over your Facebook account. They hack you and get into your account, and then they start spamming these shoe posts to all your friends. It just happened recently to a friend and colleague of mine, Casey McNeil, over at WCAP in Boston. He's got a weekly show, and somebody hacked into his Facebook and posted, the new Nike basketball shoe all over my page as him. That stuff's going on. Well, with regulation, we'd stop all that, wouldn't we? Yeah, but you'd also stop all other communications, which are good, wouldn't you? Where are you going to draw that line? How do you implement this? How do you enforce this? There's too many questions that nobody, not even Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, can answer. And that's really where everything's putting us. But I'm going to close out the show now by just stating again that it all boils down to personal accountability and responsibility. We know this. This is nothing new. I'm not telling you anything that you guys don't already know. But it seems to me that in the last 10, 15, 20 years, a parent's ability to parent, a child's ability to be accountable, and the people as a whole ability to be responsible to themselves and each other has completely gone down the toilet. The other thing that the internet has given us is a whole new realm of bullying. My wife Kate and I have had several shows on HTLA. One of the most impressive and hard-hitting was our Straight Talk episode we did on bullying, which you will find in our broadcast page. Countless cases, and right up until recently with Amanda Todd in Vancouver. This is a girl that was bullied online and in person, and ultimately recently killed herself, sadly. So we really, as a people, as a species on this planet, using this thing we call the interwebs, need to be a whole hell of a lot more diligent in ourselves. And that's it. Life sucks, and I'm gone.
HTLA Radio 1. You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. We will add your distinctiveness, your advertisers, and your sponsors to our own. Resistance is futile.